Hello, it is 2:36 in the afternoon. My name is Seth, and these are my 8 cents. I would like to say I'm sorry I haven't been making videos lately. I officially just got married, so I've been celebrating and handling other things. But I'm back now, and we have a lot to discuss. So last week, the wrestling world was shocked and saddened by the unfortunate incident at 01 in Japan involving legend Shinjiro Otani. He took a German suplex to the turnbuckle the wrong way, and as of now, so far he is unable to move limbs. But he did, however, go through a successful surgery. The doctor said it was a cervical spine injury. The statement was made by his wife. That's all I know. I want to give what I know, my thoughts on that. I was first introduced to Otani when I was a young boy. He was the first WCW World's Cruiserweight Champion. He defeated Chris Benoit to be the inaugural Cruiserweight Champion. He then lost it to Dean Malenko. But before he was in that tournament, he was at Starrcade 95 in a stellar match with legend Eddie Guerrero, in which he came out victorious. This man is a legend. At 49 years old, he has done so much. It's a shame that he had to go through that moment and be injured that way, given how prestigious he is. I've talked about this matter with rather few of my friends, and this is what I have to say. These days in professional wrestling, everything is about spots, almost. You got your strong style spots, and you got your high flying spots. Not that there's anything wrong with that. You need those things. But it seems that today's wrestling is missing the one important ingredient. Storytelling. Now, when I say storytelling, I don't mean storytelling verbally, physically. Why do these two opponents not like each other? If they're fighting for a championship, show me via move sets why that championship is of great importance without having to risk your life or your livelihood to accomplish that task. See, I come from the Attitude Era, the Monday Night Wars, where the stars, even Hogan, would tell the story of their characters in the matches. WCW versus NWO, things like that. And although at that time injuries did happen, it was more accidental. I'm not saying that the issue with Otani was not accidental. Clearly it was. But what I'm saying is they weren't going out of their way to do dangerous moves like that. Well, at least not in WCW or WWF at the time. ECW was very hardcore, but that's besides our point. They weren't going out of their way to do these types of things for oohs and ahs. And these days, the moves, the flip-flops, they used to mean something back then. A Hurricanrana used to end a match. A super kick used to end a match. There was a time that a top rope suplex would be a finisher. Now it's part of the ingredients. It's not the finishing touch. So these moves that are coming out that we haven't seen before are potentially dangerous. All right? Which could cause a lot of problems for the wrestler. The body part not being what it used to be anymore. The hourglass being turned on that wrestler's career. In wrestling, you have to protect your opponent. Yes, accidents will happen. We know this. But take the time to protect your opponent. Because that's pretty much the task, above all else. Protect the opponent so you can tell the story the way it's supposed to be told. I've never seen that video of Otani. I've been looking for it, and I know it sounds kind of weird, but I wanted to see for myself how it took place. So I had more of an understanding. As of now, I've checked Twitter the past 3 days. I can't find any new information on Otani, which, to me, it seems like a bit alarming that they're not relaying more information on this matter. Whatever reason that it is whatever reason it is. But all I can speak on is what I've seen as a wrestling fan. I'm not saying we need to go back to the style of the 80s. And I ain't saying that we need to go back to the style of what was, going on in the 90s. I'm not saying any of that. But what I'm saying is it has to be safer. Otherwise, these injuries will happen. There was a young Japanese wrestler by the name of Plum Mariko who had a shitload of head injuries. And in August of 97, she took a powerbomb outside the ring and died. Darren Drozdov in 1999 took a powerbomb the wrong way and is paralyzed to this very day. Some of you companies out there need to understand that. Now, I am not a WWE fanboy by any means. All right. Some of the way that they do business, I am not a fan of. But I will say this. When it comes to injury protocols and wellness as a whole, WWE is spot the fuck on for that. For real. They are. They're good. I give them that. I showed my wife an article because that's how I found out about Otani. If I did not read that article, I would have never known that Otani suffered that horrific and unfortunate injury. My wife and I sat next to each other and read it. And I'm going to tell you right now, my wife is not really a fan of Tony Khan. She's not. She thinks he's an idiot. My concern with Tony Khan is this. I want to know if Sting had that surgery because Sting has the same injury that I have, the cervical spinal stenosis, which if you get hit the wrong way is paralysis or death. Here are the facts. Sting is 63 years old. 63 years old. And if he had that surgery and he did not tell people that he had that surgery, okay, cool. But if he did not have that surgery, we got a problem. Imagine if Sting is fighting Billy Gunn or Wheeler Yuta or Darby Allin, and he takes a bump the wrong way. Then what? Then that's negative press for AEW. The consensus will say Tony Khan doesn't care about his wrestlers.
And he don't.
That was my life, by the way. When it comes to wrestling, like I used to want to be a wrestler as a kid, right? And I was big into the high-flying lucha libre style. That was what hooked me. Officially. I was already a fan who was hooked before I saw Rey Mysterio Jr. or the Ultimo Dragon or Juventud Guerrera or Mr. JL. I was a fan before I saw ECW, but when I saw the Lucha Libre shit go down, I was hooked. I wanted to be them. Because their moveset, yeah, it was high-flying, but it was safe. Nowadays, it's not that way anymore. And that's a shame. Because the life of a wrestler, as Jim Ross said, is relatively short. And it is. There's no guarantee you're going to make lots of money. There's no guarantee you're going to be a main eventer. There's no guarantee of anything. So essentially, it's a gamble already. This isn't me trying to dissuade anyone of being a wrestler. These are the facts. There's nothing in life that's guaranteed. So if you add safety as a yes, no, maybe in that box, now it's even more of a problem. It's even more of a problem, not just for the wrestlers or the talent, but it's also an issue for the people who run the promotion, which in turn becomes an issue for the fans. Which, along with the new talents, The fans are the lifeblood of the wrestling business. Without no fans, there is no company. Without no TV deal, there is no company. See ECW for that. That was one of the ECW's biggest problems. And we love ECW. Well, my wife, man, a bunch of table spots and she got annoyed with them. But I loved ECW. But what was the problem with ECW? It was too violent. There was no corporate synergy. There was no tethering. Every time, there was always a big spot. Who could hit someone with the kendo stick? Who could hit someone with the chair? See the Chris Benoit situation. Sabu broke his neck in a match with Chris Benoit. Not saying that it was incidental, but these are facts. Wrestling is supposed to be safe and enjoyed by fans because there's also kids watching. So imagine if two people are wrestling and one person lands awkwardly on their neck or their knee or gets a concussion, gets knocked out or throws up. Now the kid's like, well, what the fuck is this? There has to be a line of moves that are safe to do. WWE again banned the pile driver back in 2005 because Paul London got injured by Juventud Guerrero. He banned the 450 splash and the shooting star press. He said, we're not doing those anymore because Paul London, I think he either got a concussion or he broke his nose in that match. Give WWE shit all you want to, but they do give a fuck about protecting their stars. There's some that they may not give a fuck about, and there may be some that they do, depending on who you ask. But from what I've seen, I'm just saying, I don't work there. I'm not getting paid from them. I'm just saying what I see. Now, there was a lot of misinformation. They said it was a different hall that Otani's injury took place at, but it wasn't. It was actually the Sumo Hall. There's a whole bunch of different misinformation, but that's a sad thing. This thing needs to be brought out on a wider platform to be discussed, where all the wrestlers can learn from this and say, hey, maybe I should wrestle in a different style that's safer for myself and my opponent. You've probably seen Bret Hart. Bret Hart forgave Shawn Michaels for fucking him over at Survivor Series in Montreal. He forgave Vince for having a hand in it. Probably forgave Vince Russo for his hand in Owens' death. But Goldberg, with one super kick at Starrcade 99, ended his career. We're not talking about someone like Bill DeMott. We're talking Bret the fucking Hitman Hart. A legend, a decorated man who had his career abruptly ended by Goldberg's super kick. I don't think Goldberg meant to hurt that man, but you can't tell Bret that. Because when you're a wrestler and you've been to the top, you want to do anything to keep yourself there. Because if you're injured for 6 months or whatever, you're forgotten about. That's the last thing you want. They did that in WCW. Why do you think wrestlers were popping themselves up with fucking pills to come back prematurely and possibly dying? See Bobby Duncan Jr. for that. If you miss at least 6 months, they cut your pay in half. That was their rule. It's fucked up back then, but it's the truth. So why do these spots, for the sake of a small reaction, when you can do an entire match and keep the crowd hooked at the edge of their seats? I want you to tell me a story. I don't give a fuck about your strong style discus punches. I don't give a fuck about your Hurricane Ranas or variations of it. Tell me why you hate each other. Tell me why that championship means so much to you. Tell me that you'll do anything to get it. That's all you have to do. My favorite pay-per-view of all time was Uncensored 1997. And it wasn't for the WCW NWO Piper team match. I wanted to see it for Glacier versus Mortis, a martial arts match. By their moves, they told me why they hate each other. I understood as a 10-year-old child why they hated each other. The whole match was excellent. Of course, Chris Kanyon was in there. Rest in peace, Chris. This world is poor without you. A lot of people I met, oh, you like Glacier? Fuck yeah, dude. Hell yeah. But they told a story. If you look back into the 80s, Flair versus Steamboat, Savage versus Steamboat, they told stories. And the injuries were few and rare. Because you don't have to do a suplex that turns into a pile driver, that turns into a power bomb, and all that. You don't gotta do all that shit. I'm not knocking it, but do it in moderation. Because you're burning the crowd out. Oh, how many high spots and how many power moves can you do before the match ends? Near falls are important. It keeps the crowd and the fans at home hooked. I'm not disputing that. But, excuse me, after a while, if your match at, say, the Great American Bash is the same match that you have at Starrcade, you got a problem. You can't hook your fans and your viewers on that shit. Like, we've already seen this match before. You're going to do a high spot. Someone's going to come in. This, that, and the third. Match over. No, you have to keep the shit fresh. And you have to keep it safe. Because if I were a wrestler and I wrestled at a company and let's say I got a concussion or I got knocked out the wrong way or I injured my neck or whatever, my wife's going to be fucking upset. And 9 times out of 10, she's going to ask me to leave. Like, no. Because these wrestlers have families. That's why. I've heard King Mike talk about all the stupid shit that AEW has done. Basically saying they're throwing caution to the wind. And in some ways, he's right. He feels that AEW within a year will be canceled. I don't want AEW to be canceled. It would hurt. It would suck. Because where would this talent, where would they go? You know Vince is going to take, he's not going to take all of them. Especially after they spent time on TNT and TBS talking shit about Vince and the company. You really think he's going to take them after that? No. So it's either independent scene, Impact Wrestling, and if you're good enough, maybe Japan. Or even Mexico. Just saying. Just saying. So, with all that being said, I'm calling on AEW and other companies, and in some ways, WWE, even though they're on the mark when it comes to Superstar Wellness, learn from Otani's injury. So that way we don't have to have another tragedy. I hope and pray Otani can walk again. It's not looking like he can. I'm not a fucking doctor. But there's a high chance that Otani's career is over. And he's only 49 years old. He was seen as a prodigy. When I first saw Otani, he was 23 or 22 years old. And in July, he'll be 50. Imagine how him and his wife will feel when the doctor says, I'm sorry, Mr. Otani, but you can't walk anymore. You'll never walk again. It's over. One move changed the course of everything. Everything. Imagine that. When a safety protocol could have been followed. Like, hey, I want to do this move. I want to do a German suplex to have you hit the turnbuckle. But is that safe? Is that safe? No. That move should have never happened. That's not... A German suplex is not meant to be dangerous. That's why you do it on the mat. You don't do it in the corner of the turnbuckles. Come on. The neck right here. There's a chance that you could hit that post right there and fuck your shit up. When I was growing up, I didn't see that shit. Power bombs in the corner. Why? Square circle. The mat. Keep that shit on the mat. Every wrestler is a brand. Every wrestler is a business. Yes, they may work for the same company, but essentially, when it's all said and done, they are their own brands. They are their own companies. That's why when they leave a certain company and they do indies, they ask for a particular price. Like, hey, you want me? I want $250,000 for an appearance. Think about that. My wife and I, we are praying heavily for Shinjiro Otani, Otani's wife, and the fans and the friends of Otani. I hope that he can walk again, but I also hope that going forward, he does not allow like that type of carry on to happen. I hope and I pray like, hey, if they say do it again, don't. There are people out here. I watched an old clip last night of Politically Incorrect, and they had WCW stars on there. And Bill was like, oh, the fans are in on the joke, right? Because he's not a wrestling fan. So because he's not a wrestling fan, he thinks that because it's fake, and he knows that it's choreographed and there's storylines and what have you, that the fans already knew it. But you're talking to old school wrestlers who were trained differently from today to protect the business at all costs. You say the F word around an old school wrestler, it's not going to end very well for you. It's not going to end very well for you. When the Chris Benoit situation happened, it put a black eye on the wrestling business. The most often thing that you heard in that time was roid rage. Oh, all these wrestlers are using steroids and they're beating their wives and killing them. Because of one man. Me and my wife, we watched Dark Side of the Ring about Chris Benoit. We had our thoughts about that. It may be a topic I'll talk about somewhere down the road. Who knows? But it only takes one incident to ruin it for everyone else. One bad apple spoils a whole bunch. So if this got out, if this happened in AEW, then a microscope's on wrestling. Oh, wrestling isn't safe. We told you not to try it at home. Look what happened on Dynamite last Wednesday. Look what happened on Rampage on Friday. Or look what happened at Dark. Now there's a negative microscope on the company because you're doing too much for so fucking little. And I'm not just calling All Elite Wrestling to the table. I'm saying any company that's guilty of this. You can entertain the viewers at home and the fans in attendance without trying to kill yourself. Go back to the days of psychology. Use your head to get heat. So when like the fans see the bad guy with the manager and the manager trips the baby face and attacks him behind the referee's back, they start going, oh, it's an outrage. We can do that too. But too much of the high spots is going to burn out the match and potentially injure someone, or even worse. Those who forget history are doomed to repeat it. Sluggo Daddy said that about the AEW WWE beef. But truer words were never spoken in this moment. How many more injuries do we have to have before we say, hey, we should probably change the way we do this? What if the next incident is a death that could have been prevented? Silver King and Pero Guadalajara died in the ring almost a decade ago. In Mexico. Imagine if that shit happened in America. You know how Twitter is. Twitter's a motherfucker. They love raking people over the coals. Look at Nash Carter We don't know if he actually beat his wife Kimberly up or not. We weren't there. But 85% of the world, well, half, not even 85, but half of the people feel that he did it, and the other half feel that he didn't. So even, no matter what, Nash Carter has that stigma of being a woman beater who might be racist because of the Hitler pick, or Kimberly has that stigma of being a liar. So my call to arms on this one is this. Be smarter about it. Protect your talent. Protecting your talent is protecting the company. Until next time.